Proceedings in the arms deal trial against former President Jacob Zuma and the Thales Group have been postponed to next month. This because Zuma is in hospital for medical observation. His legal representatives are expected to submit his medical report next Friday. Zuma is currently serving a 15-month jail term for refusing to comply with an order to appear at the state capture inquiry. Let's cross now to my colleagues who are at the Pietermaritzburg High Court, Thulasizwe Simelane and Siphamandla Goge. If I may start with you. First of all, good morning and good to see you. Maybe just a tiny recap for our viewers of how we got here in the first place and then today's judgment.
Well, today, Tony, we were meant to have the hearing and arguments in the application by former President Jacob Zuma to have the lead prosecutor, State Advocate Billy Downer, removed on the grounds that, according to Mr. Zuma, Mr. Downer does not have title to prosecute. The stage was actually set for what was meant to be a sparring of the legal minds, really, in court here in Pietermaritzburg, in that all the filings were done and the exchange of papers had happened between the two parties. But then on Friday, former President Jacob Zuma taken to hospital outside of the correctional facility where he's serving a 15-month term in escort, taken to a hospital outside there to undergo what is known, was billed as routine observation. But then it's been a number of days since then, and now we found ourselves in the situation where today he could not be here physically in court, which is what he prefers, by the way. He prefers to be in court even when that argument, those legal arguments are delivered around this rather legal and technical matter of whether or not Billy Downer has title to prosecute. But he couldn't be here because he remains in hospital. And the result of that is that today, in that virtual hearing, a letter was presented that was part of the application for the postponement that was tabled by Advocate Dalimpofu on behalf of former President Jacob Zuma. That letter basically saying that more tests and more observation still needs to be done on former President Jacob Zuma before a substantive medical report is delivered. And the final result of all of this is that the order that has been made by Judge Piet Koen is that the matter is postponed to the 9th and the 10th of September. On that day, we will either hear the substantive application for the removal of the prosecutor, which was meant to happen today, that application. It may happen on the 9th or the 10th. But if that is not what will happen, the medical report will be tabled on that day with the possibility that it leads to a short postponement or possibly lead, Tony, to a trial within a trial. And here's the reason why that may happen. It may be that the prosecution, the NPA, the prosecutors may take issue with the report produced by Mr. Zuma's legal team. And we know this because Wim Trengove, on behalf of the NPA, told us as much that, if the report is acceptable, well, fair and fine, and we are led by that report. But if we have issue with it, we may want to appoint our own legal expert to examine Mr. Zuma in terms of Section 37 of the Criminal Procedure Act. Listen to what the advocate Wim Trengove said on that score.
The order will be, the first part will be, the matter is postponed to the 9th and 10th of September 2021. Two, the medical report in respect of Mr. Zuma is to be rendered by no later than the 20th of August 2021. And three, it is directed that the state may appoint a medical practitioner of its choice to examine Mr. Zuma to assess his ability to stand trial, and for that witness or that doctor then to be a witness, if necessary, to give evidence.
Yes, my lord. That's as I said. The third one is in terms of Section 37, yeah,
Yes.
That should be fine.
Yes.
Yes,
Agreed
then,
on that,
yeah,
Drinker?
with all three ballots.
Sorry, Mr. Bofu?
I was saying we're happy with all three proposed orders, my lord.
So that was the order being made there by Judge Piet Koen, Tony, not the voice of Advocate Wim Trenkov, as I had said earlier on. But nevertheless, it captures the essence of what was agreed between the parties, and also that door that is being opened for the possibility that the state may want to appoint their own medical official to then examine Mr. Zuma as a second opinion, as it were. And that particular official may actually be called upon to give evidence and be cross-examined, and the potential for that to happen on the 9th or the 10th if there's some kind of disagreement on the assessment made by the doctors currently attending to Mr. Zuma at that undisclosed hospital. Well, what does this do for all the teams that have had to come out and prepare for this particular matter, sitting in Pietermaritzburg, now ending up sitting virtually? It basically means that we have to do it all over again on the 9th and the 10th. Everyone, the journalists, the prosecutors, the defense team, the police officers, the SANDF, the intelligence officers, everyone has to come back again. Siphamandla Goge is watching that situation for us. Siphamandla, a strong deployment earlier on by the SAPS. I suppose now they'll start de-rigging, as it were, but keeping in mind that they will have to come back and do this all over again on the 9th and the 10th of September.
Indeed, they are debriefing each other now. After that, they will start de-rigging, and then we are back here on the 9th and 10th of September. They will have to do this all over again. They will have to erect these barbed wires around the court precinct. Going to ask my colleague Bonga Mkhize to show you the vicinity of this court building, which was taken over by the police and the soldiers, who are a bit far away from where we are for now. But this security plan had to be implemented and executed to the T. We were told that police's top brass did not want to be embarrassed again, and the majority of the police members that are deployed here, they've got to do with crowd control management. The car in front of me, there is Western Cape POP, you've got the Northern Cape, you've got the Free State, as well as Mpumalanga province. So many units and members from other provinces were robbed in to come and reinforce here, beef up for this deployment, because they are not taking chances. Remember, there were those riots and unrest last month. These were heavily criticized for their lack of crowd control management in this regard. So they will have to do this over again on the 9th of September. But it's what police's top brass want, and they say this is one of the high-profile cases. On my right here, usually by this time, every time the former president appears in court, this park, which is just across the court building, is always occupied by supporters of former President Jacob Zuma. But look at that. Only 2 or 3 security guards that are inside there. Other than that, it's relatively empty and quiet. It's just the police's barbed wire that is just put there to ensure that they are able to deal with whatever eventuality that may or might happen here. And we will continue to see these Thulas. I'm told by my sources within the police that from now on they will continue with this deployment, especially if and when supporters of former President Jacob Zuma are set to come to court, because they don't want to be caught by surprises. Thulasizwe.
Yeah. So that's how it's looking, Tony. In terms of the cadence of this particular matter, it took a giant step forward in May when former President Jacob Zuma entered a plea, a formal plea, because believe it or not, while we're talking about allegations that stem from the late 90s, there had never been a stage where the question was put to him directly, do you plead guilty or not guilty? So that was a giant step forward. But I'm afraid at this particular point, we are back to the cadence we are used to in as far as this matter is concerned. Just minor shuffles, really. Shuffles, if movement at all.
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, one has to look at it from two angles here, because we've seen, again, like you're saying, it seems it's another shuffle that we're in. We've seen this so many times. But the former president is 79 years old. I mean, when we look at the whole scenario, do we take this with a pinch of salt? But as well, he is an elderly man, is he not?
Yeah, he absolutely is, Tony. And his health problems are no secret, really. You remember the time when he went to Cuba to seek medical attention, and also that became subject to the various processes, the various court processes, with the result that the judge, Daya Pillay, at the time, he was due to appear before that judge, but, you know, was out of the country, and with the result that it ended up with a procedural arrest warrant being issued, which was then, of course, cancelled when he then appeared at the next appearance. Also, there was a medical report that had to be produced at a particular point within those proceedings, as they were at that particular point in the build-up to the actual start of the trial. So you are absolutely right. His age is a factor, but also his state of health is a factor. The mere fact that you're starting to hear words such as fit to stand trial being used in contemplation of what the medical report may show. It may show that he is not fit to stand trial at that particular point, and if that is accepted at that point by the prosecution, well, then it's a short postponement. But if it's not accepted by the prosecution, they brief their own medical doctor or team of doctors to examine Mr. Zuma in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act, that particular section that was quoted, and then that expert that they appoint then can come forward and then be someone who gives evidence that may corroborate what the current team of doctors attending to Mr. Zuma find, or actually might differ from them, with the result that we have what we like to call a trial within a trial.
Interesting. Just a quick one. I know, let me just test your mind a little bit. What does this mean, though? Let's say they come back and they've got an extensive report. They say the former president is not fit enough to stand trial. At the same time, does he go back to serve time back in prison? Because you can also take those same reports and say, my client, you know, we're putting an 80-year-old or 79-year-old in an environment that's detrimental to his health.
Yeah, that's a fascinating question in the realm of speculation, at least for now. If someone is not fit enough to stand trial, are they fit to remain incarcerated at the age of 79? It would open up quite a number of debates, I imagine, Tony.
Yeah.
But at this particular point, and also I imagine that the hurdle for you to, you know, attain that status, to reach that benchmark that says you are not fit to stand trial, I imagine that there are some rigorous safeguards within the Criminal Procedure Act and other laws that govern how criminal cases are conducted. I imagine that it must be quite a high bar for you to satisfy that, and it would be put to the test if we reach a point where you're saying this person is not fit to stand trial, period, which is separate from saying for now this person is not fit to be physically in court while the trial is being conducted, which is a completely separate matter, which merely means that you push back the dates of the trial rather than scrap it altogether. I imagine scrapping it and stopping it altogether requires quite a high bar for it to be met.
Okay, well done, Thulas, because that was a bit of a tough one. I'll bring that at you. But Thulasizwe, thank you so much at the Pietermaritzburg court for joining us alongside Mr. Goge as well. We'll catch up with them a little bit later on. But